Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel and another video on Marvel Contest of Champions. So, as part of the content contributor program, I've been given the Venom the Duck character to review, and then it'll be removed from my account. So I don't get to keep it, just to clarify that point. Venom Duck is a character that's been created as a second character for October 2018. And it's a very unusual character in that it is sort of made by Symbiote Supreme, which is an egg, and the egg gets absorbed into the Venom symbiote and then gets, hatched into Venom the Duck, if you go by the motion comic, which gives us an idea that is the case. Venom the Duck continues on this kind of scheme of persistency or persistent charges, in that the way that it interacts from battle to battle differs for whatever abilities have been applied to that champion. For example, just above my head, around about here, is the symbol of the persistency. And when you go from battle to battle, sometimes the numbering changes. Venom the Duck's is different, and his persistent charges are different from battle to battle in that it's more of a bank. And how it works is he banks buffs. A bit of an odd concept, I know, but also it's kind of unusual and also kind of seen with other champions. Champions like Morningstar and MODOK are kind of comparisons where they're kind of storing up, they're improving as they go from battle to battle. The difference with this one is it's all about collecting a huge amount of buffs, which will either be at the start of the battle or can be triggered off by the L3. So in a nutshell, how the Duck goes into a battle, he then does a special attack or a heavy attack, and then that means that the number increases. He can only generate 3 per battle, so it is a little bit of an annoyance, but at the same time this means that he's good at a questing format. And at the start of the fight, all those stored buffs get activated, which is pretty cool. And then if you're thinking to yourself, hey, I need more regeneration, I need better effects, and at the same time I don't want to be stoking too much L2s because I want to just get all those buffs back, then you can do that by hitting up the L3, so all those buffs come alive again. One thing that works out as a positive for Venom the Duck is that if he hits a crit, he will do a bleed. Not completely 100%, there is a 55% chance. But when it comes to immunities, he's able to put on a degen effect, which is positive. The other thing that goes with that as well is the L2. So L2 allows you to then put a special kind of toxic armor on. And this is, again, a new concept, and it's better than having some sort of it's kind of like a debuff meets non-debuff effect. So it is nice to see something of an originality with buffing debuffs, or kind of like, well, debuff, it's a debuff effect, it's a negative effect on the enemy, but it looks like it's a positive effect on the enemy. It's kind of weird. I'll be running some VT over the top of what I'm saying, so you'll be able to see it. So it's like, it's odd, but it's cool at the same time, and you're able to put damage in that maybe other champions would be or should be immune to, but aren't in this circumstance. Another thing working in the favour of Venom the Duck is the fact that if he goes up against enemies that have a higher amount of armour, so like largely tech champions, you know, your Thors, then it does mean that there's going to be an additional direct damage, which is based on opponent's armor. So it says like deals up to 90% additional damage. So you could see a lot more damage than what I've been putting out against stuff like Winter Soldier, and also doing some questing. So yeah, would love to kind of use him for more stuff, but because I've only have a limited time to use this champion, I think it's like 24 hours to get this video as well as play about with him, I didn't really get to experiment too much. Unfortunately, I don't think that Venom the Duck's damage output is very good, incomparable to other champions like Domino, Proxima Midnight, yada yada, list goes on. Corvus Glaive, Void. Yeah, again, you could list off so many different champions. Damage output doesn't feel like it's that strong, especially when I was testing out some stuff with going on Realm of Legends. Winter Soldier took about 400 hits, and then it's a case of like Captain Marvel, even though that you know, toxic armor was there. Yeah, it's all about the buff creation, and I really feel that this champion is better suited to questing, similar to MODOK and Morningstar, utilizing the champion in a format of doing event quest and monthly. I found it to be a lot more viable. Fights that allow the champion to have a lot more fights to the end boss, like event questing, like Alliance Quest, and also we've then potentially Alliance Wars for an offensive side of things. This champion could be effective. However though, not so much of Alliance Wars, as I feel that changes to nodes will in the future deem a lot of champions not as usable, unless Kabam have an idea that this champion could be one of those champions that people and players could use in that format. So it could be viable, it could be something in the future that will go, hey, with toxic armor, that could be really good for that. And you know, the way it interacts with debuff effects, and the fact that if it's a champion that is immunity, then it can whack on that degen effect. Either way, you know, there's options there. I think the next question is, do the synergies make the champion better? Yes, the answer is, but to a degree. And that degree is that, well, if you're going to have a questing team around this champion, centered around this champion exclusively, then you've got Carnage, which, yeah, okay, is of value. You've then got Domino, which is a champion of value. You've then got Venom, champion of value. And then finally you've got Blade of that. That's a champion of value. The others, yeah, could use them, but those seem to be the main four, which I would particularly go that they're strong. I can quest with them, and it doesn't have to be all about Venom the Duck, because you only need 4 fights, I think, to get yourself all those buffs. And the big issue with Venom the Duck is that you can only have 10 buffs stored in your RNA bank, which is annoying, but at the same time, that is 4 fights. Then obviously you've got your boss fight a little bit further on, so you don't feel that you're stipulated to kind of do every single fight to then get to the end boss. Whereas say a champion like Morningstar requires 5 fights in order to get the life stealing, but MODOK is obviously other kind of like, we're talking about questers, and MODOK could be a great asset, but you know, Venom the Duck in a comparable sense with that is a little bit of a letdown. And the reason being, with MODOK synergies, he allows a broader spectrum of champions to use when it comes to creating your questing team, to then go from start right the way to an end boss. Whenever I'm doing my questing, I do find it better to have a broader type of champion, from power stealing, from buff stealing, from double immunities, as well as bleeds. You know, there's so many different champions that I choose from that make a strong team for me when going up against certain content. So being kind of having your hand tied to these champions is a bit disappointing around a questing champion. Likewise, the same sentiment could be for Morningstar, as you're then stipulating your hand is tied to gain those captured souls. So you're tied to Guillotine and Mephisto. And unfortunately, this does mean that you're stipulated to have 3 Mystic champions, which is annoying because it leaves you 2 other slots to have other champions that maybe have class advantage. And also the disappointing side of things is that Morningstar is not poison immune, which I think is just completely ridiculous. Alliance questing, yeah, for sure, especially as you go from fight to fight. Unfortunately, there's no immunities there, so it does stipulate you to more inner paths. And at the same time, there's no power control, and as well, if you have hill block, you can't take that path. So there are uses, but you've got to keep it and keep the champion in a certain type of paths. Alliance Wars, same scenario really. You probably will see with the changing of nodes in the future and the randomization that he may become more of value, but I'm not overly going, oh, use that champion. Defense wise, again, don't really know. I wouldn't really like to see the champion as any kind of defense. The other thing is then questing, and that seems to be of value. I can really see this champion being a decent quester, but it would be if you were doing an event quest and having all these champions here from the synergy. Yeah, you got your Blade, you got your Domino, those 2 champions, and then having Venom the Duck, leaving space for 2 other champions that maybe could power control or have a double immunity of some kind. A nice kind of mix there, rather than going for the stipulation of here, because there's, apart from Venom, Blade, Domino, and at a push Carnage with the changes, there's nothing really that's got any kind of immunities and also power controls. So yeah, swings and roundabouts with this. But in any case, what are your thoughts on Venom the Duck? Is this going to be a champion for you? We're going to go for him in the crystals. Do you think this is going to be a very low arena cutoff for this one? What are your thoughts? Leave them in the comment section below. And at the same time, if you enjoyed the video, hit that like button and subscribe for Marvel Contest of Champions based content. I've been RichTheMan, and I shall catch you in the next one. Bye bye for now.